here. Ryne is going first. They start with a Seismitoad EX and play a Tapu Lele immediately.
Yeah, actually kind of interesting. We see the Seismitoad being cut from a lot of these Zoroark Execute decks nowadays, but Ryne deciding to play it and worked out pretty well. They were able to make it into the top 8 using it, and I'm sure Quaking Punch paid off at some point through this tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what supporter they took with this Wonder Tag. I didn't see. But, one thing that they actually don't want to do, you actually don't really want to play Bridget against Trevenant because you want to stagger the Zorua that get down. You see Ethan started with that Espeon EX, which can devolve Ryne's Zoroarks. So they want to be able to make sure that they're staggered and that, it keeps Espeon out of the game.
Yeah, and starting Espeon is definitely unfortunate for Ethan. It's going to be kind of hard for him to be able to get off that turn 1 lock into the Trevenant after Ryne finishes their turn. We'll see what else. Definitely wants to get at least one Zorua down. There they go. Go ahead and get Zorua and a pass over to Ethan's side of the field. We'll see what he has. Does he have a way to move Espeon? And can he get a Phantump to the active to get off Ascension?
Yeah, if he can find a Phantump, a Dimension Valley, and an Energy, he will be able to retreat and use Ascension for free, thanks to Dimension Valley, reducing the cost of that attack. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I know Ethan actually wasn't super excited about being streamed. This is definitely a kind of a harder matchup for Trevenant, and talking to him about it, he actually has only played one Zoroark deck throughout the entire course of the tournament. He did say he was able to beat the Zoroark he played earlier on in the tournament, so he's going to be hoping to be able to pull that off once again here in top 8 of Roanoke.
We didn't talk to Ryne about if they played any Trevenant earlier, but I have to imagine Trevenant has been incredibly popular here, so it seems reasonable that they did play against them.
Yeah, 3 Trevenants in the top 8 alone, as well as the 3 Buzzwole GX decks. Definitely very indicative of the meta, I would say. Those would 2 most popular decks in top 8, also probably the 2 most popular decks at this tournament.
Yeah, definitely, and it's kind of surprising, actually. Zoroark has been dominating, especially expanded, for pretty much since it released, and everybody kind of wrote Trevenant off, but, it seems like it came out here in force.
Yeah, once again, I think heading into the tournament, lots of players were expecting a decline in Zoroark overall, and, there was a decent amount of it throughout the weekend, but I would say it was far less played at this regionals than it was at past expanded regionals, so because of that, Trevenant was able to excel, not having to deal with that dark weakness. Looks like we do see that energy attachment. Oh, and just a pass. This is going to be 2 turns of items for Ryne, and that does not normally happen against Trevenant.
So Ryne evolves to Zoroark and is able to trade an egg from their hand. Puts another Skyfield down. I'm not sure if I like that necessarily. I guess you want to get rid of the Dimension Valleys. So just burning these stadiums, but, maybe they want to just fill their board and get as set up as possible before the trainer lock happens.
And I believe that Tapu Lele there found a Guzma. They can use that Guzma to bring up the Phantump on the bench with the energy on it and just take it out of play right away if there is a double colorless to accompany it. Looks like that is the case. Guzma here brings up Phantump, will take a knockout here, doing a ton of damage to this Dark Weak Pokemon, and just trying to limit the options of keeping Trevenants out of play for sure.
Yeah, if Ryne can maybe find a VS Seeker here to bring that Guzma back to the hand, can guarantee that they'll have another turn of trainers, even if Ethan brings up Trevenant. So very, very strong opener for Ryne.
So we'll see. Ooh, double puzzle. This is pretty
there
good.
We go.
Usually you want to save that for the late game, actually, but really good here against Trevenant, being able to use them before that Forced Curse ability comes into play. Gets back a Skyfield as well, so they'll have that option to bump one of those Dimension Valleys on Ethan's side later on.
Fast knockout here. Evolves to Trevenant. So now, actually, if Ethan can get another Phantump, he can Ascension that Phantump, and that way he'll have 2 Trevenant in play. But he's going to need to start by, playing a supporter here. I see a Lele in his hand.
Yeah, and we don't see any float stones in Ethan's list. The way he would have to get off Ascension would be a Mystery Energy or a basic Psychic on the Lele used to retreat it. Mystery, of course, he wouldn't have to discard the energy, but using that to retreat the Lele and then bringing up a Phantump, using Dimension Valley, copying Ascension, or using Ascension for free with no energy requirement because of Dimension Valley. So going to need to be about a 3-card combo here off of this Cynthia. Let's see if Ethan can pull it off.
Yeah, another thing here that we're noticing, we've seen a lot of the Trevenant decks, and they run a full suite of the Enhanced Hammer, 4 copies. And Ethan here actually only running 2 copies of Enhanced Hammer, which is going to be, it's going to make it very difficult for him to slow Zoroark down.
Looks like we might, going to go ahead and attach to the Tapu Lele. Looks like we do see, actually, another thing here in Ethan's list. We do see the rescue scarfs as opposed to the bursting balloons that we saw from Traz earlier on today. So just showing the two different variants as he attaches that that rescue scarf down there onto the Trevenant. Doesn't look like there's another Phantom, though. And Ryan's going to have access to items once again, it looks like. Doesn't want to just retreat and sacrifice their only Trevenant. So it looks like we'll just see an energy drive, actually, for 60. And this could be big. Ryan's had 3 turns of items. No trainer lock yet coming out from Ethan.
If I'm Ryne here, all I want to do is find a way to get a floatstone or a double colorless. Well, actually, they just opt not to use Guzma. Maybe they didn't have a way to switch Zorak back into the active spot and knock out that only Trevenant. But colorless is fine here. Most likely, we'll be taking a knockout on this Tapu Lele.
Yeah, and I honestly think you're kind of okay even just taking the knockout on the Lele. You go down to 3 prizes left, then you only need to take 1 knockout on the Trevenant that's on the bench, and then you can win the game with a Guzma on that Espeon that's already in play.
Yeah, definitely. And Ethan does not run Sudowoodo, of course, so every Pokemon that Ryne puts down, they will stay there until a Dimension Valley gets rid of Skyfield.
We see Compressor come out. Gonna discard 3 cards from the deck, put them directly into that discard pile. Usually we see this go for those executes. And it looks like Ryan's also gonna opt to discard the Bridget. Doesn't need to use that at this point in the game.
Yeah. Eggs is great. That'll give Ryne the ability to just draw for free, even late game under N or something. So it looks like they Ultra Ball. Probably just taking maybe a Zorak to have for next turn. Maybe a Shaman. I don't know how many cards are in their hand.
Yeah, they do need 2 more bench Pokemon actually to knock out this Lele or Choice Band. So needs to find another Pokemon. Can bench execute, but that is definitely a potential free prize for Ethan, right? If Ryne puts down the execute, then it's just got 30 HP. A Silent Fear takes care of that really quick.
Yeah, it looks like they had the Mewtwo Evo in their hand. Great Pokemon to put down. It just has a lot of HP as a basic, so it'll take a long time. But I don't think Ryne is particularly worried about enduring a lot of Silent Fear. This game looks like it is definitely in Ryan's favor.
Absolutely, and Ultra Ball as well. This will probably get one of those Zorak GX you mentioned, just to hold on to it for the next turn to keep those trade abilities going. And Ethan's gonna need to find one of those 2 enhanced hammers to slow this down, and hope that Ryne doesn't draw very well off of something like an N.
Yeah, this is probably not how Ethan envisioned this game to go. And it seems like we talk about this all the time, but at some point, Ethan maybe, should think about future games in the set. But because it's top 8, we actually get 75 minutes to do this best of 3, as opposed to the 50 minutes of the Swiss rounds. So plenty more time here, actually. So maybe Ethan can play 3 full games anyway.
So we actually see Ethan using that counter catcher. That is definitely a really interesting card. What do you think about his choice to send up Espeon EX here as opposed to the Trevenant?
It's interesting. I feel like if you can get the Trevenant in the active spot, maybe you can trap the Seismitoad, but it could be that they just wanted to have an energy to retreat. I believe that is a Rescue Scarf on the Trevenant, so maybe Ethan is looking for a Phantom and Dimension Valley so that they can retreat and use Ascension, and then trap the Seismitoad and still have, and now he'd have 2 Trevenants. So, I guess we'll see what he gets off of this N.
And that may be what he's going for. That would actually be pretty strong if he could pull it off. Let's see if he finds the combo. Does need just Phantom and Dimension Valley, or like a Mysterious Treasure / Ultra Ball, plus that Stadium card. Can't quite tell what's in his hand, but it doesn't look like I see it quite yet.
Yeah. He probably would have played it if he had it already. We do see a Trevenant break, though. So now if I'm Ethan, I think maybe I do retreat into the Trevenant break. To trap the Seismitoad. He actually opts not to do that. But
does get to take a prize, though, on that Zoroark,
correct.
Since, there was the 60 damage on it earlier from the Tapu Lele. Only taking 1 prize, though, because the Zorua is actually the Pokemon that was knocked out. The Zoroark was just devolved, put back to the hand. 6 damage counters on Zorua means it gets knocked out.
Yeah, and so now Ryne is looking for, obviously a double colorless and a Guzma.
This is kind of an interesting card we see in their deck list. Ace Trainer actually coming out. I wonder how useful that's been through the weekend. A pretty solid supporter card. Similar to N in a way, as if it can disrupt your opponent, but if you are behind on prize cards, both players shuffle their hands into their deck. You draw 6, and your opponent only draws 3. So it can be really good if your opponent gets a really fast knockout. Put them just at 3 cards, and that can really disrupt what they're trying to do.
Could be great against Buzzhole, maybe. Buzzhole takes a knockout on a Zorua on the first turn, and then you Ace Trainer them and immediately start things off with Zorak. So, it's interesting, and I'm sure it's been useful up to this point. We're going to see a Colress here. Colress going to get...
A ton of cards.
Yeah, it looks
I
like
think 9, yeah.
So this is great. I don't believe Ryne has used trade. So if they can get another Zork as well, that's 4 additional cards that they'll draw this turn. Really just looking for that float stone and that double colorless.
And if they can pull that off, I think this game will certainly end up in their favor. All they need at that point would be to take one single knockout, which will be very easy to do on the Dark Week Trevenant.
Yeah, I think the first card I saw Ryne draw was a computer search, maybe. So just, the chances of them pulling this off here is extremely high. See an Ultra Ball here, discarding.
Looks like executing Bridget.
Yeah, obviously you don't want that Bridget in the deck. Anything you can do to thin the deck and just keep crucial resources. And obviously grab another Zork, as we see.
Yeah, can get multiple trades now. We'll see the top 4 cards of their deck. Going to be looking for that float stone. As you mentioned, the computer search, I believe, is in their hand. So they can trade first, and whichever piece they don't draw into, they can, go get the other piece with computer search.
And they trade.
There's that double
there's
colorless.
The double. So I think you trade again. See if maybe you don't even have to use the computer search.
Absolutely.
I think that's a second double that they got. I think. So there's the double colorless.
There's a choice band actually, which will.
Choice band. Sorry.
But double colorless is surely coming shortly after it. We also just a ton of item cards in Ryne's hand as well. Is just gonna let them, play these cards out now. Having not been item locked at all at this point in the game is just absolutely crazy. Normally you expect to get turn 1 item locked, and we're in turn 4 or 5 now. No item lock has happened at all.
We're gonna see VS Seeker for that Colress. VS Seeker maybe taking that Guzma from earlier, or Hex Maniac.
I believe the Guzma is still in the deck because they puzzled for it, remember, on that second turn.
You're right,
so
yeah.
I don't think it's been used since then, so they should still have access to it in the deck some way, somehow. We'll see double propagation. This usually leads to an Ultra Ball. No.
There is that computer search.
Computer search can find that float stone.
This will likely grab the float stone, yeah. And it's smart of Ryne to play the double VS Seeker there. Obviously you're expecting to not be able to use items next turn because at some point Ethan has to send up that Trevenant. So getting access to the Hex Maniac, which will be a turn of items next turn, just ensuring that they can do everything possible to win this game.
And, it is definitely still possible for Ethan. It is very, very improbable. Only 1 prize left for Ryne.
Ethan's just going to go ahead and
concede, yeah.
This Ridus beating will actually take 3 prizes as Ethan concedes the first game.
Yeah, and, a big thing here is Ethan is going to be able to go first here in this game and hopefully not start that Espeon EX. If he can start a Phantom, he can find a Tapu Lele and hopefully get off that turn 1 Wally.
Yeah, looking back on that game, pretty much everything went well for Ryne. Getting to play against a Trevenant and actually getting to use items for the first 3 turns of the game. Well, actually, the entire game.
Yep.
That's exactly how you want that match to go. What does Ethan need to do in this game?
He needs to start a Pokemon that is Phantom. He started Espeon in that game, made it a little awkward, harder to get the Trevenant up and active really fast. But you can see these players here, they're being friendly, having a good time, and it's definitely exciting to see some new faces here in the top 8 of this tournament. Yeah,
it's actually very interesting. We see a couple names that we recognize in this top 8, but for the most part, like you mentioned at the beginning, a lot of new players. And it's really cool. Expanded's kind of like the Wild West. Any deck can do well, as we're seeing here, and really any player. So very cool to see. Looks like they're setting up for the second game here. Ryne, I see 2 Zorua, or a Zorua and a Zork in the hand. So great starter for Ryne, and I did not catch what Ethan had.
Actually, looking at Ryan's hand, I'm not sure that I saw a supporter card, any playable cards besides items. So if Ethan does get off that turn 1 item lock, that could be really, really bad for Ryne. We'll just have to see what Ethan gets going over there. Can't quite tell what he's started yet, but we'll get that switched over. Looks like he's playing a Mysterious Treasure here, and it is a Phantom in the active spot, and this will likely find a Tapu Lele, and that will find a Wally.
And Ethan does run 2 copies of Wally. We've seen a lot of Trevenants cutting down to just 1 copy, but Ethan valuing that turn 1 trainer lock so much that he runs 2 copies. And yes, of course, this is the dreaded combo that has made Trevenant public enemy number 1.
Yeah, it's the deck everyone loves to hate, right? Turn 1 item lock. No one likes just getting turn 1 Trevenant and getting locked out of the game, but you just can't deny the power of this card, right? Just trainer lock on turn 1, spreading damage across your opponent's board, taking multiple knockouts in a single turn, and then also the combination of being able to use Espeon EX's Miraculous Shine to take knockouts. So strong.
Ryan, looking at their hand, drops the egg. That actually doesn't do anything as far as buying you time because it only has 30 HP and a pass.
Oh, this is not good. No playable cards in that hand. Maybe a lot of items clogging it up. If Ethan here can find a Psychic Energy Trevenant Break, he already has the Dimension Valley. That will let him potentially take a knockout on this Execute and put 30 damage on this Zorua, and might be able to just win the game on the following turn after that.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan, of course, hoping that Ethan can't get those cards, but if he gets this, Ryan is on a 2-turn clock.
Basically, we'll just have to see what Ethan draws off of the Cynthia, drawing 6 cards. I also think one thing worth noting, we haven't really seen Trevenant have too much success. I believe a top 16 and top 32 in Utah a few weeks ago. One of the big cards that it's also gained from a newer set is Cynthia. Not having to Sycamore and discard, important evolution pieces from later on can be huge for the consistency of Trevenant. And actually, we see one of Ethan's other interesting card choices, Lusamine.
Yeah, very interesting. Maybe he values being able to, win the stadium more with the Dimension Valleys. And he's got a couple interesting supporters here as well. The big one being Xerosic. He also runs a copy of Silent Lab, actually.
Oh.
That's something that we have not talked about yet. So maybe he likes reusing the Silent Lab.
Oh, looks like Ethan did not get the energy card they needed. And Ryne has actually got a Foul Play Zork and a double colorless energy. We'll be able to use Foul Play and copy Tree Slam here, dealing 120 damage to this Trevenant Break, and puts 20 damage on each of these benched Pokemon. That's actually really strong from Ryne.
Yeah, actually. Ethan probably was not expecting this much aggression this fast. Didn't find an energy there, but it doesn't really matter. Now Ethan is immediately stressed to find additional Trevenant.
Man, this is a really, despite having not a very good start, this is really aggressive from Ryne. Just having that one of Foul Play in their opening hand, able to really push their aggression with that Tree Slam. Could even copy Silent Fear to maybe knock out that benched Phantump next turn if they want to. We'll just have to see. Wouldn't quite knock out the Trevenant, though, because it does place 3 damage counters, doesn't do 30 damage, so don't hit for weakness when you're placing damage counters.
Yeah, Ethan's going to Cynthia. The biggest thing, Rescue Scarf would be great for him here. That way he can at least preserve this Trevenant line. An energy. If he can find an Enhanced Hammer, maybe. Hope that Ryne doesn't have another double or a supporter. But we'll see here.
Let's see what he gets. Going to be looking for that Enhanced Hammer. Energy cards, as you mentioned, are going to be a must. He missed it on the last turn. Does play 8 energies. Oh, just a pass. Does not have an energy card. Not even that Rescue Scarf you mentioned. And Ryne doesn't even need to play cards. We just see a Tree Slam once again.
Yeah, and this Trevenant is going down. And now there is no Trainer Lock. Ethan really kind of struggling here.
Yeah, and it's so awkward, right? He can send up a Phantump, use Ascension to get a Trevenant out of the deck, or just evolve one manually. But if he does that, it'll just go down immediately to a Foul Play copying Tree Slam. Foul Play, just as the starter here, might just sweep this game.
Yeah.
We'll have to see if Ryne's able to pull that off. What can Ethan do to avoid that from happening, though?
He's going to Ultra Ball. I didn't see the support. He discarded an N, so he must have some sort of other draw support in his hand. Probably going to grabs a Lele, okay, for Xerosic. I don't hate this play. He's going to get rid of the double. He's going to Ascension for the Trevenant and just hope that Ryne doesn't have anything. But, very, very flimsy board state here for Ethan.
Yeah, it's going to be really kind of come down to, does Ryne have that double colorless energy? I looked in their hand. It looks like they do indeed have one. So this Trevenant that he Ascensions into will go down if that was indeed a double colorless energy. Ryne's going to be feeling pretty good right now, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times against these Trainer Lock decks, you have to adapt your strategy for the cards that you're dealt here, and Ryne was just very fortunate to get, a sort of interesting set of cards that is exactly what they needed.
You see Sudowoodo hitting the bench. Double colorless energy. That's got to be heartbreaking for Ethan. Colress as well will draw 5 cards. Not too bad. Not as big as some of those massive Colresses that we've seen. throughout this stream this weekend, but still drawing 5 cards will still net Ryne a few more cards than they had previously.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully you get another Zorua out of this, or even honestly, if you just draw another double colorless, you're fine with whatever else is in the hand. We can't see what they drew, but Skyfield, that's good. Now Ethan has to attach to evolve. We see a Lele.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe looking at that last turn, should Ethan have just conceded item lock for a turn, sent up a Tapu Lele, and tried to establish multiple Trevenants on his bench? Maybe that could have been something he tried to go for, but, I understand his mentality as well of trying to Zerosic. Maybe they won't have one of their 3 energies in their hand, and, Ryne just happened to have it, and it's really unfortunate for Ethan.
Yeah, absolutely heartbreaking for Ethan. He cannot concede this game, so he has to play it out, but, He's got to see that he's going to need some luck on his side.
Yeah, going to just send up the Phantom here. Once again, if he does not remove that double colorless energy, it will just go down. He had the Trevenant break in his hand, so that would have been great if that Trevenant he had previously had survived for a turn, but it did not work out, unfortunately. There's an Ultra Ball.
He's going to Ultra Ball here. He doesn't have, any Shaman or anything. He's got 1 Tapu Lele left if it's in the deck still, so maybe he can grab a support like an N. He takes a Trevenant. If he's got a VS Seeker here, maybe he could VS Seeker for Zerosic and try and knock off that DC and pray that this time it sticks. Alternatively, he could play something like a Cynthia and try and hunt for an Enhanced Hammer. And he's playing VS Seeker, and he does offer the Zerosic. He's really hoping Ryne doesn't have it. If Ryne happens to have the double colorless, this game is over. Benches a Zorua here.
Yeah, and I think at this point Ethan recognizes this is not a good spot. I'm going to have to get a little lucky. Ryne's going to have to get a little unlucky for me to win this game, so they're going to try to make that happen. Ryne actually here playing a Tapu Lele GX could maybe use something like a Guzma to get access to item cards. I think the Hex Maniac is there at the front. Actually just going to grab a Cynthia. Maybe wants to be able to shuffle and draw some more cards.
Yeah, Cynthia. That'll grab 6. Maybe preserve the Chorus for later. I don't understand. I think there's Chorus in their hand, so Cynthia's just going to draw 1 less card, but I guess maybe I'm wrong. They will play Hex Maniac and Special Charge, a card that we also have not seen in Zoroark decks. Most of the time they just run the Puzzle of Time to get back these energy, but, Ryne maybe wants to free up a spot with the Puzzle of Times not on the double colorless.
Yeah, I definitely like that inclusion. We see Ryne playing a Battle Compressor, discards 2 executes as well as that Ace Trainer. At this point in the game, they are far ahead on prizes and far ahead on board state, honestly. So Ace Trainer probably won't come into effect. I can, like you said earlier, just imagine how good that Ace Trainer is probably against those Buzzwell decks.
Yeah, and Ethan with 1 card in hand is under Hex Lock, so needs to have a supporter in his hand right now. Otherwise, he won't be able to play any cards. And he uses Counter Catcher on the Pseudo-Udo. This is great. It's going to end Ryne. Now is his chance to try and reestablish board control.
And this is exactly what Ethan wanted to see here. Just a pass from Ryne means that Ethan, probably breathed a big sigh of relief at that point. If he can find a Dimension Valley plus a Trevenant Break and a Psychic Energy, Silent Fear can start to spread 3 damage counters across all Pokemon. He'll take a prize immediately on that Execute and set this Zorua on the bench up to be knocked out on the following turn.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, Ethan, as we've seen a couple times with these disruption decks like Drampa, Ethan is going to need to be drawing a lot of good cards with every single draw supporter he has. Really stressing the deck, and, honestly, I don't see energy in there.
I think there is a Mystery Energy in the Dimension Valley, but I don't think I see the Trevenant Break, so might not be able to attack this turn. Looks like it'll just be a pass, but maybe can start Tree Slamming on the following turn.
Ryne gets a Zoroark. They can now draw under Trainer Lock permanently for free with that egg. We'll draw 2. Looking for a Guzma here or a Hex. Doesn't look like they have either of those things, but they are not in a terrible position at all. They can afford to wait a little while.
There's a double colorless energy. Going to go ahead and attach and retreat into this Zoroark GX, just passing onto Ethan's turn. Ethan's going to want to find a counter catcher to get out of that for sure. He does play 2 copies of the card. There's a Rescue Scarf, so that's definitely a good card for Ethan to see as well. We'll have to see if he can find that Trevenant Break and then maybe another Trevenant to put on the bench as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Not quite sure what he has in his hand. Checking the discard pile. Maybe he has a VS Seeker in his hand, wants to see what supporter options he has. Maybe just kind of checking what resources have I gone through. You see this from a lot of players. Just checking the discard pile helps you just remember what have I played throughout this game. And we actually see a Guzma bringing that Sudowoodo back up to the active spot. Phantom coming to the active and Ascension. I think that's what Ethan was checking for in his discard pile. How many Trevenants are gone? Do I have one left in the deck?
And he doesn't.
Ooh, maybe his last Trevenant is in his prize cards?
Oh, I think he discarded one Trevenant at the first turn of the game with an Ultra Ball for that Lele. So he does not have another Trevenant. This is not what he wanted to see. And Ryne has a perfect opportunity to take over this game.
Such a big opening. We see that Floatstone come to the front of the hand immediately, almost ready to move that Sudowoodo. Propagation into the trade ability. Only one Zoroark GX set up, but that might be all that Ryne needs at this point in the game. Has a lot of the combo pieces already in their hand. Double Puzzle of Time coming out, can get that double colorless energy back, and one other card out of the discard pile. Maybe a Hex Maniac. Actually going to be a Skyfield. I like that a lot as well. Skyfield comes into play, and we'll see what Ryne uses. Actually going to go ahead and Bridget can get a couple more Zaruas out and maybe some other basic Pokemon.
Yeah, I think this is fine. You know, killing that one Trevenant, that would be cool. But, you know, honestly, leaving Ethan with just one Trevenant that will be knocked out in the following turn, you know, it's effectively the same thing here. And Ryne values their setup a lot more, pretty much putting themselves out of range for Ethan to come back in this game.
So we'll see what other pieces Ryne has in their hand. We know they got that double colorless energy back with the puzzles, so we will see a knockout on this lone 50 HP Phantump here.
Ryne thinking about what they want to do. You know, they know that Ethan does not have another Trevenant, so Ethan will have to attach to retreat. Maybe thinking about not attacking, or there's a problem in the game.
Yeah, it looks like there might be some sort of discussion going on right now. Trying to figure out what that might be. We'll see if we can find out. I didn't quite see anything. Maybe there was something played out of sequence, but it looks like the gameplay is going to resume, so things should be good. It doesn't look like anything went wrong.
Yeah, so there's the double colorless attachment, and this will be a Ride is beating for a knockout. So, you know, all Ryne needs to do is knock out one more 90X, so this lone Trevenant, and then those two Lele are both pretty, they're softened up a bit, and it'll take just a lone Guzma. There we see the Enhanced Hammer finally, see an attachment for turn.
Yeah, and I think Ethan is going to need to combo this turn with an N. Unfortunately, does not quite get there. Looks like it's just a Cynthia.
The most important thing here, I think, is finding maybe a Trevenant Bake or a Dimension Valley so that he can at least attack. Getting that second counter catcher would also be great. Maybe pull up that baby Mewtwo on the bench, stall for time, but he's going to need a lot here.
Yeah, definitely needs to get a little lucky and also have Ryne get a little unlucky in order to win this one. And that does happen sometimes in the game of Pokemon, right? You need your opponent to get a little unlucky in order to win. And that's, you know, what helps some of these great players succeed is they, you know, just see these opportunities of like, I'm really behind here, but if this happens and if this happens, I can still win the game.
And we do see that counter catcher pulling up that Mewtwo. Ryne is under trainer lock. We see an Espeon come down, Dimension Valley as well. But if I'm Ethan, I don't actually know if I want to attack this because it'll be he'll hit it for weakness and do 120 damage to it, and it will be knocked out next turn. You know, I was thinking maybe it buys him some time, but he does opt to use Tree Slam, putting them on the Zoroark and Zoroark.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason not to just go ahead and do a little bit of damage here. Like, you're not knocking it out. You can maybe buy some time behind the Mewtwo. I guess maybe if you wanted to try to get off a Silent Fear next turn, I could understand that. But Ethan, as you said, just goes ahead and uses that Tree Slam, deals 120 to the Mewtwo.
So Ryne has two Zoroark now. Trades a second time, looking for that third Zoroark GX if they can get it. But even if they can't, it does not matter. Really, what they want to find now is a Hex to be able to use VS Seekers like this. To get a Float Stone.
Ooh, second Float Stone coming into play.
Ethan does not want to see this. Could not be worse for Ethan, and this game is so close to being out of reach. Grabs the Hex again to stop any future Trevenant shenanigans.
And Ethan does get that Trevenant line back thanks to Rescue Scarf, but with no Phantump on his bench. Won't be able to get a Phantump in play this turn unless he uses something like Wally or Ascension, and we just saw Ryne via Seeker for the Hex, so that would get around to the trainer lock anyway.
Attach an energy, but I don't think this will matter. This Lele is pretty beat up. Ryne just needs to get another choice band, I believe, to knock this out. Doesn't even need Skyfield and additional Pokemon. So Ethan, he's on life support here, and the writing is likely on the wall.
He can hit for 60 here and maybe try to go into a de-evolution play next turn. But there's the choice band, and that is it. That is the game. Ryne Morgan taking the top 8 match down with Zoroark Execute. Congratulations to Ryne.
That was a massacre.
Yeah,
definitely. That was not close. Ryne had a kind of we thought a poor opening hand, but actually the perfect cards in that situation. It's attacking on the second turn with foul play, and Ethan just could not deal with that fast aggression.
Yeah, that foul play was so good for Ryne. Not something I typically expect to see from Zoroark players in this Trevenant matchup. It's usually not that great. It's like okay sometimes for very niche scenarios, and we saw one of those niche scenarios come up, and Ryne capitalized on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're going to try and do here, we're going to try and get a winner's interview here with Ryne, talk to them about that match, and we will be right back.
Yes, and we'll also try to get an update on some of the top 8 matches. We need to make sure our tech team is ready to turn the screen off for us, and we'll be right back.